Hey, what's good, everybody? I'd like to welcome you all to a brand new episode of the Boombox Guru. I'm your host, LB, and today's episode we're doing another album review. This time we're talking about one of the latest hip hop releases to come out this year, one that's been 20 years in the making, and this group finally came together. This is a rap supergroup that finally was able to come together and release their long-awaited debut album, and I'm talking about the Horsemen, and they released their debut album known as The Last Ride, released on June the 18th, 2021, man. Like I said, man, this album was 20 years in the making. The Horsemen consist of four MCs: Kurupt, Canibus, Killah Priest, and Ras Kass. And anybody that's a hip hop head, anybody that's really into underground hip hop, they know that these guys are four of some of the most elite MCs in hip hop. Like, these guys are top tier lyricists. They're the top echelon of lyricists in hip hop. You know, all these guys have released like countless like solo projects that have had varying degrees of success. But one thing that's been consistent amongst all four of these guys is that they are like just some of the illest lyricists ever in hip hop, man. Like, they're just part of that whole echelon of lyricists who are really, unmatched. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys, that's all that they're about, man. They're about that lyrics, man, like battle ready rhymes and so forth, man. But yeah, this album's been 20 years in the making, and they finally came out with it. I think Ras Kass was probably the main one that really spearheaded the whole project and bringing everybody together and getting this thing done, man. But I gotta say, man, it was definitely worth the wait for this album to come out, because they knocked it out of the park with this record, man. And Ras Kass keeps referring to it as the debut finale. So I'm thinking maybe this is going to be the only album that they do, which, I mean, I'm kind of hoping it's not, because this is a really great hip hop album. I mean, lots of gritty, like boom bap beats, very aggressive lyricism, man, like wicked wordplay, crazy punchlines, just all the true makings of what MCs should present to the table, man. Like, they really, all these guys represent and they epitomize what real MCing is supposed to be. And now that I'm thinking about it, man, the Horseman was actually the first slaughterhouse, if you think about it, because all these guys were elite lyricists that came from different parts of the country, but they all managed to come together and put out some really good music. They had various guest spots on each other's solo albums, or different compilations and projects and so forth. And then they finally, after much anticipation, were able to come together and put out some dope projects together. Now, I think preceding this album, they put out a album called the Horsemen Project in 2003, which I think was more of like a leaked project. It consisted of material that the band had recorded, but it wasn't in very good quality. I remember having a burnt copy of that album, and the quality of it was really poor. Like, the songs, you could tell the songs were good, but the quality was just really poor, man. Like, it was a lot of clipping and a lot of just not very good mastering that went into that project, man. It seemed like something that was really just thrown together and put out there. I think it was more of kind of an underground thing, now that I think about it, man. But they finally came out with an official debut album that really just sets the bar high, in my opinion. So let's get into some of the songs on here, man. It starts out with a song called Centro, which has like this dialogue. I'm guessing from whatever kind of movie. Keep in mind, them being called the Horsemen, they're representing like the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. So there's this whole apocalyptic theme that runs all throughout the whole record, and there's a lot of dialogue sampled from like disaster films and dystopian post-apocalyptic films that sample throughout, that kind of has a running theme throughout the record, man. So it starts off with that centro, which has like this dialogue from, I'm guessing, some type of movie that's discussing like the apocalypse and everything like that. And each MC introduces themselves and which horseman they represent, and they kick a few bars, man. So let's get into what they represent. Ras Kass represents pestilence. Canibus is war. Kurupt is famine, and Killah Priest is death. So that's what they all represent as far as like their horseman characters, man. And there's a appearance. I think, yeah, Chino XL makes an appearance on this album. Planet Asia. Let's see, Hus Kingpin, Field of Agony, RBX, Dina Ray, Kia Jeffries, Tragedy Gaddafi. Uh, yeah, some pretty cool guest appearances on this record, man. So anyway, it starts off with that album Centro, with that song Centro, and then the official song that really kicks off the album is actually Centaurs, where that to me that's the real introduction, man. This like hard hitting boom bap beat comes in, gritty beat. I believe it's Canibus is on the hook, man, and then each member just comes in and just kills it with like aggressive lyricism and everything like that, man. Just a proper introduction to the album that really sets the tone for the record. Then goes to this shit right here, which is actually that's one of my favorite songs from this album. I really like the beat, and I like the way that they flipped that Cat Williams stand-up routine into the hook. That is just so crazy, man. And I think that Kurupt had probably the standout verse, man. Like his aggression and his like intricate wordplay was just phenomenal on here. I mean, don't get me wrong, all four members of the group kills it on this track, but you know, I gotta give it up to Kurupt, maybe because he's probably one of my favorite MCs of all time, but his wordplay was just out of this world on here, man. There's a reason why they call him like a wizard of words and so forth, man, because his wordplay and technicality was just amazing on here, man. Then there's a really cool cut on here called Champion featuring Planet Asia and Chino XL. Man, Chino XL, man, he annihilated that his verse on here. I think he ended the song, man. He killed that song, man. The beat, it's kind of like a basic beat, more built on bass heavy kind of rhythms with a reggae hook performed by someone named Blackamore, who I'm not really familiar with that artist, but Chino XL, man, he killed that last verse, man. Especially that wordplay that he used, where he said something about he will make you diagonally. I thought that was so tight how he structured that whole rhyme scheme right there, man. Uh, let's see here, Love and War, which is mainly like a Killah Priest and Ras Kass song. I think they recently just dropped a video for that like a month ago, and that features Kia Jeffries on the hook. I really dig this song. Kia Jeffries, she killed the hook, man. Like she sung her tail off on that hook, man. She really did her thing on that hook, man. And I like the way that they took that Pat Benatar song, Love is a Battlefield, how they kind of flipped that sample and it created this really cool song. And I like Killah Priest the way he started off that second verse, because he's talking about like I guess an argument with his girl, and he says like, what does he say? He says, "You sound like a duck. No more fun days with my hands on your butt." It's kind of funny, man, because prior to that, he's talking about like her being on the phone, talking to her girlfriends and everything like that, and he mimics like the Charlie Brown adults. You know how the Charlie Brown adults really never had dialogue, but they were kind of just squawking like wah 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 wah. He kind of mimics that. He kind of mimics that as like her talking on the phone, I guess, gossiping about him and so forth. But I thought that was a real ill song. Believer, which I believe that was like the first single. I believe, yeah, Believer was like the first single, I believe, that I at least remember seeing, which was a really dope track, man. Each member killed it on that song. I mean, Killah Priest wasn't actually on that song, but they did include the next track called False Prophets, which is more like an interlude, but it's Killah Priest kind of spitting like these spoken word poetry, like based around religion and stuff of that nature. That let's see, Apocalypse with a hook by Dina Ray. That's another ill song that I enjoy. Impossible featuring RBX is one of the dopest songs on there, especially the way they flipped the Mission Impossible theme song and so forth, man. That was really cool. My only gripe about that particular song is that RBX didn't have a verse. He just regulated to the hook, and I really hate that, man, because RBX, he's on the same level as these guys lyrically. Like anybody that's familiar with the Chronic, or his appearances on the Chronic, Doggy Style, even his solo material, like especially that first album, the RBX Files, which I have in my collection. Dude, he's a top tier lyricist, man. Like he's a West Coast MC that spits like he's from the East Coast. So I kind of hate that he didn't really get a verse, Cause I really feel like he would have really killed this beat, especially with his unique flow pattern, his rhyme schemes, and his unique voice. I just really wish they would have gave him a verse on that song instead of just regulating him to the hook, man. Cause RBX is, man, he's one of my favorite MCs, man. That dude can really kill it when it comes to the mic skills. But other than that, man, it's a dope song. Let's see, Burger King featuring Feel the Agony. I really like that song, man, because I don't know who produced that track. I don't know if it sounds like something Madlib would have done. The song kind of has that kind of boom bapish soulful vibe, similar to what Madlib does. And I found it interesting that it features Feel the Agony because with him on the track, it kind of reminded me of the Strong Arm Steady album that they did with Madlib. If you don't know, Feel the Agony is a member of a group called Strong Arm Steady with Mitchy Slick and Krondon. Krondon is I think he's the main villain antagonist on the Black Lightning show. Now he's mainly focused on acting now, but before he got into acting, him, Feel the Agony, and Mitchy Slick were in a group called Strong Arm Steady, and they did this really great hip hop album back in 2010, I believe, called In Search of Stoney Jackson, which was produced entirely by Madlib. And this song on Burger King actually kind of has that vibe. It has that same kind of musical sound that was on that particular album. But a really dope track, man. I mean, Feel the Agony kills it. I always like to Feel the Agony's voice, man. He's really an elite lyricist as well, man. And then there's a song called Ride On, which is a bonus cut featuring Tragedy Gaddafi. You know, Tragedy Gaddafi, another one of the greatest MCs of all time, coming straight out of Queensbridge. You know, the same hood that Nas, Cormega, and so many others come from, man. Somebody who really helped, or who pioneered the whole Queensbridge sound that was later brought to the mainstream by Nas and Mobb Deep and so forth, man. But that's another ill track. Let's see, Morticians is really good. I don't know if I mentioned that one. The only song on here that I'm really not all that crazy about is called 1 Second featuring Hus Kingpin. Now Hus Kingpin, that's somebody that I really need to get up on. He's an artist I really need to get up on. I think my first time hearing about him was from Uncle Nick. I don't know if any of you guys on YouTube watch Uncle Nick's YouTube channel, but he really pushes a lot of dope underground hip hop artists on his channel. I haven't really watched him too much recently. I don't think he's really put out that many videos recently, but that was the first time of me hearing about Hus Kingpin. He kept a really ill verse on here. Actually, Ras Kass and Kurupt both as well kicked ill verses on this particular song. But the only reason why I'm not too crazy about the song, because I feel as if it doesn't really fit on this album. Because, like I said, most of this album has a kind of gritty boom bap sound to it, almost kind of similar to Wu-Tang. There's a bit of like of a Wu-Tang vibe throughout this record. And I don't know if that's because Killah Priest is on the record, because Killah Priest is one of the Wu-Tang Killer Bees, one of the most well-known Wu-Tang Killer Bees, but it does kind of have that kind of a Wu-Tang vibe to it, as far as like the boom bapness and the grittiness of it. And 1 Second is more of like a modern trap record, which, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with trap music. I'm a fan of trap music. If you've watched any of my channels, I've talked about trap music. I did 2 reviews on 2 Chainz and Travis Scott. But to me, the record is a good record, but to me, it just doesn't fit on this album. Honestly, it kind of sounds like something that would have fit more on a Kurupt solo album or even a DPG album. Cause there's a lot of times when I'm listening to this song, I'm kind of waiting for Daz Dillinger to get on the track and start ripping it. But that's the kind of vibe. I just feel like it didn't really fit on the rest of the record, considering they went for a more like kind of pure traditional boom bap hip hop sound, and this one has more of that modern trap sound that's pretty much become the standard in mainstream hip hop music. But other than that, man, I think that The Last Ride is really a dope record. I think that these guys just really came with it on this record, and you know, I'm hoping that this isn't going to be the last album. I know it's titled The Last Ride, and Ras Kass has consistently referred to it as the debut finale, so I'm guessing this might be the only album that they do. But I'm hoping that this album has had enough success to where maybe they can reconsider, maybe some years down the road, to do another one. I'm not expecting them to do another follow-up record like next year or in the next couple of years, because you got to remember, these guys, all four of these guys have their own like successful solo careers. And you know Kurupt, I think him and Dash just dropped a new Dog Pound album, and I think he's fixing to put out another solo album. Raz is working on a bunch of stuff, Canibus and Killah Priest as well. Killah Priest has already put out two projects. He put out a solo album, and I think he just dropped the EP. So all these guys have their own career. So I'm not expecting them to drop another Horseman album like, next year or in the next couple of years. But I'm hoping that maybe sometime down the road they will put out another record. And there was even, I think it was this track 13 called Last Ride. It includes like various like little snippets of interviews that the members have done throughout the years. And Killah Priest was even talking about how they actually have 3 albums worth of material that they recorded throughout all the years. But because he said because of egos and because of their own careers, they just never really could get it together. But I mean, honestly, I don't know if it would matter if that other material came out, because it's 20 years ago, so I don't know. But anyway, man, I think this album was worth the wait. It wasn't a slump by any means. This is honestly one of the best hip hop albums that I've heard this year. So I really enjoyed it. I've been listening to it consistently for the past week or so. I've had it for at least about a month or so. I was a little bit late on ordering it, but it's a great record, man. And I really enjoyed this record, and I'm just hoping that maybe not too long, maybe not another 20 years, but maybe that the members will come together and put out another album, hopefully, man. But that's it for this album review. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a comment in the comment box. Tell me your opinions on this album, if you've heard it or whatever. Just let me know what you think about the album. Also, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that thumbs up. Helps get my videos out to more people, recommendations and so forth. Also, hit the subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be notified when I drop new material. And as always, I hope everybody has a blessed day and a blessed week. And love, peace, and music. Peace out.